From premise to published week 19. All right, after that intro, I hope it is week 19 and I got that right. Now that I'm actually starting to get words on the page and it looks like I might actually complete a first draft of the book I'm currently writing, I think I'm over 30,000 words on the page now. I think it's time to talk about first drafts and why they always suck. My first draft sucks. Your first draft sucks. Your neighbor's first draft sucks. Brandon Sanderson's first draft sucks. Everyone. There's no one is writing a good first draft. And here's why that doesn't matter.
No fluff writing advice. Cut the fluff!
So second week in a row and my voice is cutting out. I just did an Operation Bounce House review, or I recorded it. Hang on. I think this week I might have caught a bit of a cold from my All right, let's try that again. I think this week I might have caught a cold from my 3-year-old and I didn't really know I had it. He has had a bit of a, sniffly nose. I didn't know I had it until I sat down and tried to speak continuously for long periods of time. So with that in mind, there's no way this is going to be a long ramble, overblown video, but I have said that before. We'll see what happens. I think it's useful to use feces to discuss first drafts. And I think it's also useful to consider your first draft or getting it onto the page as like having diarrhea. You're just trying to get it out. It doesn't matter. It's going to be messy. No one else wants to see it and no one else should see it. And I know some people edit as they go. I think for most people, that's not going to be the ideal approach because your writing brain and your editing brain, they're two different things. At least they are for me and like the majority of other people I've discussed this with. So generally under like the ideal writing conditions, you'll sit down to write and you can get into this writing flow state where the words are just spraying onto the page. But that's a certain mindset. If you then switch to editing, you can sort of disrupt that flow state and you lose it and then you've got to get back into it. So I know that's not the case for everyone, but that is the case for me. So when I'm writing, I don't edit as I go. The only editing I might do is if it's the start of a session, I'll usually read the last few paragraphs I wrote in the last session so I know where the hell I am and where I'm trying to go. And if I notice any major issues, I might do a few quick edits, but that's the extent of it. So no major editing will take place until my entire first draft has been shat onto the page. And what is editing? So everyone would have heard the saying, you can't polish a turd. And I've said this many times before. It's not true. You can polish a turd. When it comes to writing, you absolutely can polish a turd. It's the only way we get from the turd-like first draft to the publishable book. And every single published book you see on a shelf, a digital shelf, a physical shelf, started out as a steaming pile of literary excrement. And as a professional turd polisher, I have seen the worst of the worst. I've seen first drafts that were borderline unreadable. I've seen a few second drafts that were borderline unreadable, to be honest. So it's important to be okay with your first draft sucking because it's inevitable, it's unavoidable. But once it's all out, you've got to be willing to polish that turd. So I've been thinking about this because, like I said, sometimes I go back and I'll read a few paragraphs to get my bearings and recalibrate. And everything I read, I'm like, this sucks. This is unpublishable. I should just delete the whole thing. This has no right to exist. Then I remind myself, no, this is how it has to exist in its initial state. I've done it before. I can make it good, hopefully. So I do have some concerns about this book, concerns that people will think it sucks for various reasons. So I believe I've got a solid plot. I believe I've got a solid character arc, but I'm doing the same thing I did with my last book, which is generally a big mistake, is I'm not writing for a particular target audience because technically what I'm writing now would be classed as lit RPG, but it's more making fun of a lot of the elements that people like about lit RPG. Like I'm trying to write this whole thing without mentioning a single number. There are numbers going on behind the scenes. There is a system, but I want to more make fun of that side of things. So like people who like lit RPG probably aren't going to like this book. Like people who like the hard lit RPG, I keep calling it progressive fantasy, which sounds like a sort of like left wing offshoot of the fantasy genre. Progression. Progression fantasy. And this first book, at least, won't even be technically progression. Which one is it? Progression fantasy. And it is in a way, but it's like, so I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't live in a specific subgenre. It's probably going to really be more of like a traditionalish fantasy book. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. What I'm saying is people who like hard lit RPG most likely won't like this book. People who like traditional fantasy most likely won't like this book. So I'm writing it for myself essentially. So hopefully there's a few more people like me out there who would be into this sort of thing. I mean, it's going to be a fun time when I get to the beta reading stage just to see what people say. Anyway, my point is my first draft will definitely suck. The finished product might also suck. All right, let's talk reading news. Yeah, exciting stuff. Like I said, I've just recorded my review of Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinnerman. I've finished reading Seekers of the Light by Brian Cole. I've written that review. I will record that next, and that'll be the one that comes out after Operation Bounce House. Trying to alternate between the indie submissions and just the things that I've chosen to read. Currently, reading Blades Forged by PJ Ashton. That's an interesting one. And I'm currently reading book 1 of the Dresden Files. I know this has a lot of hype behind it. I see it mentioned, it feels like once a day. And look, it's hooked me. All right, let's up the excitement and talk business news. I will be relaunching my freelancing business very soon. I'm currently working with, I've mentioned it before, a local designer to design a new logo. That's almost done. I think it's been a bit of a process, but I think we're on the home stretch now. After that will come the redesign of the cover for Demonology and the Art of Pickling Demons. And then I'm recording this on a Sunday. Basically, it has been a month now since I resigned from my job. So my final pay has officially run out today. So tomorrow, Monday, I hit the ground running. I'm going to do some content writing. That's going to be fun. It's been a while since I've done anything like that. So it's going to be good to work on smaller projects. I mean, I spent 4 years working on books. It's as big as projects get in the sort of writing realm, I think. In my next video, unless something else comes up, I might talk about AI because I've had to sort of, after, 4 years of being employed by the one company, I've had to re-explore the landscape and see what that looks like now that AI is such a thing. Anyway, this is why my voice gives out. I just start rambling about off-topic topics. Let me just leave you with this. Your first draft sucks, and that's okay. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy this video, hit subscribe anyway, and hate watch my content. That's always fun.